Hey everybody, Ash and Sybe here for the Triple S League with our first of 7 special stats guides for Fallout 76. We're utilizing the help of the UR Special Character Build Planner for Fallout 76 from Nukes and Dragons here, and we're going to be taking a look at Strength today. Strength has to do with how much you can carry, how hard you hit, and various things like that. And so we're going to talk generally about Strength here and then look at a bunch of the specific perk cards. But as you can see, as I level up the Strength stat here, the carry weight goes up.
Overall, strength seems to be a really good pick for most people. Most people are putting it up pretty decently high. It really does help your carry weight. However, it does not give you a direct bonus if you're using power armor. Power armor, of course, is going to boost your strength up to 11. Whether or not you have 2 points in it, or 4 points in it, or 5 points in it, or 8 points in it. If you're just living in your power armor, then you're always going to have 11. And if you're not really going to go above 11, that's probably something you might want to seriously look into, especially if you're not utilizing any of the melee abilities or if you're not utilizing many of these cards. If you're not, then you might want to lean towards just relying on that power armor. However, most people do seem to be putting in as many points as they can because there are a fair amount of like really helpful low level ones. For example, Pack Rat and Traveling Pharmacy. They're both really, really good early on. It's not kind of an end game thing, but early on you don't actually have that many cards to pick from. So a lot of people are dropping 1 or 2 points into either Traveling Pharmacy or Pack Rat, and that general weight reduction really does help over the long term of their early gameplay.
All right, so let's take a look at some of the perk cards here. Some of the low-level ones that Sybe just mentioned. Traveling Pharmacy reduces the weight of all chems, including stim packs, by 30%.
Chems were pretty heavy most of the time.
Yeah. So if you rank this one up to level 3, you can reduce it up to 90%. And this is very helpful early on. Not sure how helpful that would be later on, when you're getting up to the higher levels, and especially if you've been leveling up your strength or if you're walking around in power armor. Also, you can utilize your stash. So, if you've got excess chems, excess stim packs, you can throw those into your stash and not have to be carrying them around with you all the time. Pack Rat, again, can be helpful early on. Again, near the end game, not as helpful. And especially if you are scrapping your junk down into materials, which is a very good thing to do. Plus, you can then dump those into your stash, and you still have access to them for crafting. But you're not having to carry them around with you. So these cards can be helpful early on, but might not necessarily want to rank them up terribly high unless you are like a genuine Pack Rat and always, always overloaded with junk. Strength has a lot of perks having to do with melee weapons. We've got Gladiator, which has to do with increasing the damage of your one-handed melee weapons. Now, this is what we'll call a triple stacking card, because not only does this have 3 ranks, so you can increase your damage 10%, 15%, or 20% if you rank this card up, but there's actually 3 levels of this card. So if I just... Here you can see at level 20 you get access to Expert Gladiator, and at level 43 you get access to Master Gladiator. And these cards are basically identical, but you can use all 3 and stack them and get potentially up to a 60% bonus to your one-handed weapon damage. Now, there's a lot of different cards that do this. We'll point them out as we go along. But if you have a one-handed melee weapon build, then you're going to want to utilize all 3 of these and get that massive damage boost. The other thing to point out with these triple stacking cards is that at rank 1, they give you a 10% boost, and at each additional rank, they only add an additional 5%. Yeah. So you could potentially spend only 3 strength points and get the 30% boost. And you could leave it at that if you don't want to dump too many more points into this.
So instead of spending 9 points on 60%, you're only spending 3 points on 30%. Same thing goes for shotguns, two-handed weapons, explosive weapons, and heavy weapons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's just a decision to be made here about how many points you're going to invest in ranking up these cards, because there are diminishing returns. And so you might want to save some of your strength points for other cards. And so we'll look at some more of these right now. So at level 5, you unlock Iron Fist, which is it's basically the same. It's another triple stacking card that increases your punching attack damage. There's Master Iron Fist and Expert Iron Fist that you unlock at later levels. Slugger, again, it's the same thing, but for two-handed weapons. Shotgunner, same thing, but for shotguns. And so you'll definitely want to pile a lot of points into strength if you're going for a shotgunning build. And there's another card here you might find helpful for that. Basher. This is not a triple stacking card, but this is one that gives you a bonus to your gun bashing at the first rank. It does plus 25% damage with a 5% chance to cripple your opponent. Double both of those numbers if you rank it up to rank 2. And so if you're doing sort of a close range, like a shotgun build or something like that, where you're getting close to enemies and you might want to bash them with your weapon every now and then, this is definitely one you'll want to take a look at.
Yeah, it's a really, really good card for the points that you're putting into it. Lots of high damage in return for only 2 points.
I've got a sniper build going, and I'm going to be grabbing this card as soon as I am able to, because when those enemies get up close, I'll definitely want a powerful attack to sort of fend them off. All right, so Sturdy Frame gives you it's a weight reduction for all of your armor. So if you're finding yourself over encumbered a lot, you might want to look at that if you've got heavy armor on.
Barbarian, this card is one of my personal favorites. I'm doing a max cap strength build, and this is going to give me 80 damage resistance when I'm not wearing power armor. Obviously, I'm going to swap this out when I do pop in power armor. This is a really strong one if you're going agility, strength combination. Then this you can get absurd amounts of damage resistance for just 3 points here and 3 points in agility if you're maxing out both of those. If you're not maxing out both of those, then the effects of this card is probably a little bit less.
Martial Artist, you'll definitely want to grab this one if you're doing a melee build, especially if you're specializing in two-handed weapons. This one decreases the weight of your melee weapons and lets you swing them faster, which will make a big difference for those two-handed weapons that take a little while to wind up. And
yeah, this is huge. This is also huge for fast weapons, because it turns fast weapons into insanely fast weapons. But this 30% boost is really, really helpful for heavy two-handed weapons.
Mm-hmm. Scatter Shot, another good one if you've got a shotgun build going. Reduces the weight of your shotguns and lets you load them faster. Alright, so next we've got Blocker. It's basically damage reduction from opponents' melee attacks. So if you're getting up close and personal with your enemies and you want some damage resistance there, so you might want this for a shotgun build or anything where you are getting up close to your enemies.
It's also really dependent on the enemies as well. If you're doing if you're fighting Mirelurks, I mean this is hugely helpful. If you're fighting Deathclaws or anything else that's going to really focus on meleeing, hugely helpful. If you're focusing on mostly ranged targets, then you probably want to swap this out for something else.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we've got Bandolier here, and there's also there's a similar one called Batteries Included. This reduces the weight of your ammo. Bandolier reduces the weight of ballistic ammo, 45% at rank 1, and then if you rank it up to rank 2, it is 90%.
That's a significant drop for only 2 points. And if you're in the end game, or if you're using weapons that you're carrying around several hundred ammo for, especially if it's like missiles or Fat Man, this could probably end up making a difference between being able to carry 12 or 15 rounds for that particular weapon, or a difference of carrying around 150. Mm-hmm. So huge difference, huge bonus there. Well, this is
90% weight reduction.
Must have if you're using a heavy weapon like the Fat Man, like a missile launcher, and you're carrying around hundreds of ammos for those things. Those things are heavy. There's a lot of weight to those things.
Batteries Included, very similar, but it's a 3-rank card, and it applies to energy weapon ammo. But you can get that up to a 90% energy or weight reduction as well. Strong Back here gives you a boost to your carry weight if you rank it up to 4 stars. You get plus 40 to your carry weight.
It does seem it doesn't. It's not a lot. It's not a ton, but it's something that you might want to have just to throw on if you become over encumbered and you're like just needing to fast travel real quick. So
Yeah, yeah.
kind of probably something good to have on you, to rank up, and then to use very sparingly when you need to, basically fast travel. That's about it.
Heavy Gunner, another triple stacking card that applies to non-explosive heavy guns, such as miniguns, for example. Increases that damage. It's another triple stacker, so there's Expert Heavy Gunner and Master Heavy Gunner somewhere. There you go. That one unlocks at level 50. So heavy guns, definitely more of an end game kind of a thing. But if you want to focus on those, you'll want to grab those cards.
The lowest level one that I found was a heavy laser minigun, and it was level 25. Really tempted to keep it because that's one of my favorite weapons, and there's tons of modifications you can make for it too. Unlike the minigun, there's only a handful of modifications you can make for that, but the laser one, which does the exact same amount of damage, that one has a ton more modifications.
Ordnance Express reduces the weight of your explosives up to 90% at rank 3, so if you are doing an explosives build. Now, do you know, does this apply to explosive ammo as well? Or is it just more your mines and your grenades?
We're not sure if this covers mini nukes or missiles or anything like that. We suspect that it's only really going to cover direct explosive weapons.
Like the mines and grenades, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're living in your power armor, you might want to pick up full charge. Sprinting in power armor consumes, at the first rank, it consumes half as much fusion core energy, and if you rank it up to rank 2, it consumes no extra fusion core energy. So if you want to preserve your fusion cores and you're living in your power armor, running around...
This is really, really handy because sprinting is easy, and it's also like if you get Pain Train at level 41, then it's super helpful for most encounters. And again, it's like you're burning fusion core energy every time you're running around. If you take this, then you're not spending any more than you normally would, which is huge.
Right. Incisor, an essential one if you've got a melee build going. Your melee weapons ignore 25, 50, or 75% of your target's armor, which is going to be very helpful for you. Bare arms, heavy guns way less, so another one for your heavy gun build if you're focusing on that. It doesn't unlock till level 35 though, so again, heavy guns much more of an end game thing. And then at level 37 we've got lock and load, which lets you reload your heavy guns faster. So definitely want a lot of points in strength if you're going for a heavy guns build. And then you have bullet shield. This one I find fascinating how the physics of this works, but you gain damage resistance while firing a heavy gun, presumably because your bullets block the incoming damage. Anyway,
very helpful if you're going for like a tanky build, or if you're going for a no power armor build, and you're stacking these other damage resistance bonuses. You can get this up super high. And especially with this, in power armor or no power armor, this is going to make firing a minigun, this is going to make you like super tanky. This is not going to help you too much when you're firing like a Fat Man or something that takes a long time to reload and you're only firing it for like half a second. So
yeah.
So make sure that you're utilizing the right weapon with this one.
And then Pain Train. You damage and stagger enemies by sprinting into them with power armor. And there's question marks on these because we don't know exactly what the stats are on that yet. But anyway, that'll be a good one if you are living in your power armor and doing kind of more of a melee build. So the rest of these are just the master and expert ranks of cards we've already talked about. But that gives you a good overview of what you're looking at in the strength stat for perks, melee. Heavy guns and shotguns, you're definitely going to want a lot of points into your strength stat. All right.
If you are going for a shotgun build, if you're going for a melee build, if you're going for a heavy weapons build, you're going to want to go probably 15 points into strength. If you're using power armor all the time, there's no reason to put more than 1 or 2 points into strength at all, period.
All right, everybody, thanks so much for watching. We've got 6 more of these videos coming on all of the other 6 special stats, so definitely like if you appreciated this content, and subscribe to catch all of our Fallout 76 content that is to come. We've got, there's going to be a lot of it, so thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, sub, and hit that notification bell, and then check out some of these other videos. Find the link to our Discord server and other important stuff in the description below.